Okay? All right. So let's look at a couple of these so you can understand what I mean by some of these different features and which they are. All right? Mesh plates. Mesh plates are used for one reason only. They're cheaper. They reduce costs. That's it. There is no performance. It doesn't make things perform better. As a matter of fact, they make things perform worse. Because mesh plates, we all know that now, we all know, because we're distributors, we're more familiar with this, we all know that ionization requires mineral content. And that one of the things we have to do with our machines is clean them on an ongoing basis. Well, one of the things you have to understand about mesh plates is they're pieces of screen with little tiny holes in it. Little tiny holes make places for minerals to collect. And then they start to build up, and then they get to the point where, and John showed you a couple pictures of them, it gets to the point where you've got this scale, an entire layer of scale. Scale is referring to the mineral buildup that is creating a buffer, a block zone between the water and the actual metal of the plate. And it's that physical contact that's necessary for ionization to have its strongest potential. Well, if you put a scale layer in between that, you're not ionizing the water. As a matter of fact, you're barely doing anything to it because the scale is absorbing and blocking a lot of the power from physically going into the water to do its job. Okay? So, mesh plates. Oops. John, is this thing set up on an automatic?
No.
Really? Okay. Okay. So that's the mesh plates. The next thing, dual filters. Dual filters. The reason this is a cheap, and so again, mesh plates is cheaper. That's why it's there. John, is that you?
No.
Someone's taking over remotely. Okay. So the next thing is, so again, mesh plates, it's because they're cheaper. That's it. Okay. Dual filters. The reason that they have dual filters is because one is taking stuff out and one is putting stuff in the water. Okay. What it's actually putting in are alkaline-rich minerals, so that when the water comes out of the machine, when you test it with the drops, it appears more purple. That's the reason it appears more purple. It's not reacting with the amount of active hydrogen in the water that makes it naturally the alkalinity. It's reacting with the minerals that have been infused into the water. And that it has a whole different effect on the body. Okay? So again, dual filters. If you're going to make a good enough filter, one should be enough. So two, remember, one's taken out, one's putting back in again. All right? Again, that's cheating because it's not creating the actual amount of alkalinity necessary or that should be, that the machine should be doing on its own. Automatic flow control. It reduces water flow. This is a way to cheat the consumer. If you understand the way ionization works, like I said, the water has to come in physical contact with the plates. When that happens, ionization is occurring. Basically, if you have a smaller, less effective plate, you need to try to keep the water in contact with that plate for as long as possible in order to try to create some type of properties. So what they've done is created the automatic flow control. So that means that you could, with these other machines, you could turn your water on as high as it would go, but the water coming out of the machine is always going to be the same flow. Why? Because there's a restrictor inside the machine that physically restricts the amount of water that's going into the plates at any given time to force a lower quantity of water to be in contact with the plates for a longer period of time. Now, some people might go, well, that's a good thing. No, it's not. If you have to do that, it means that your machine is not strong enough to actually be able to handle what it should. If you look at our machine, you can crank that baby up and, our machine will typically produce a larger volume of water 2 to 3 times as fast as these other machines because we don't need a restrictor. Okay? So that's another thing that they're cheating the consumer. They're putting this in there. They're touting it as a benefit when in fact it's a flaw of the machine not being powerful enough to actually do the water at a good enough rate that they have to put that restrictor on there. And the last one I'm going to talk about is the automatic temperature shutoff. Again, cheater. This is an inferior design. This is because these machines overheat. So let me ask you a question. Which would make more sense? For you to put in a piece of equipment that when the machine got too hot, it would cut itself off and stop operating the way it's supposed to, or address the overheating problem and fix it? Oh, address the overheating problem and fix it, right? That would be the logical way to go. It's more expensive, though. That's the reason they don't go that route. So what they have instead is the automatic temperature shutoff. And like John said, how would you like to buy a car that after you drive it for 15 minutes shuts itself off automatically because it's gotten too hot? That's it. No, you would never want any kind of product like that. Why? Because it doesn't make any sense. Because as a consumer, you deserve more than to have to be at the mercy of what this machine can do. It should be at the mercy of what you put it through. And it should be able to, if constructed well, be able to handle it. That's why, I don't know about you, but I've filled up 100 gallons of water in one sitting before. I know John probably has too, because I know John does quite a bit. But these other machines couldn't handle that. I mean straight, 100 gallons, one after the other. Did you know these other machines, most of them are rated, if you make more than 2.5 gallons of water in a day, you void the warranty? I don't know if you guys know that, but if I did that, I would have voided the warranty of my machine 5 minutes after having it.
Jerry, we got another half hour or so, and people, you can stay on the line if you want, or stay on the webinar if you want. But we're gonna finish this material and stuff, and I want to make sure that Jerry is able to go through everything. But where do you find this information about the 2.5 gallons? Because I know Jerry goes through extensive research with all these companies, and he's got a lot of inside information about how these companies are run on the inside. I mean, some of the stuff that he told me about some of these companies and how they, when they get inspected, they hide stuff in the walls and things like this. This from actual personnel from these companies is pretty amazing. So where do you find this information? So if a person said, "Hey, well, where does it say that in my warranty?" Where would you find that? Something like that.
Good question, John. A lot of it is in their materials, things that you don't get till after you buy their machine. I have gone through most of the competition, their websites, their materials with a fine-tooth comb. One of the things that I've discovered, I'm going to use one for example. I'm going to name names here, okay? Life Ionizers. Life Ionizers actually had at one time all sorts of information on the internet. And I don't think that they actually realized that someone like me was willing to do the type of investigating I was willing to do. And so not only did I find the information, but I captured screenshots of it. If you're not familiar with a screenshot is, basically you go to a web page or anything that's on your physical screen, you hit a couple buttons on your computer, and you basically take a picture of that screen that you can save for later review. Well, I have hundreds of these screenshots that account for all this information. Basically what these guys do is as soon as they find out that the information has been found out and that it's been released, they go online and change it. They delete it. They remove it. That's one of the reasons it's really hard, because there could be something on there today that I find, that I capture, I let people know about it, and tomorrow it's gone. But it doesn't mean it wasn't there. And that's the way these guys operate. That's why the majority of these competition that's out there, they're all virtual. They don't have offices. They work nothing but online, because they can change your stuff in a matter of seconds. That's why the stuff that like Enagic does. Enagic puts tens of thousands of dollars every month into their website, into their materials, into all the different things. Why? Because they have to in order to do this effectively. But what you're really looking for is the stability that the company is producing. As a matter of fact, you very rarely will ever see a physical brochure from one of the other machines, because all they do is create electronic brochures. Why? Because they don't care enough to invest in their own company to produce an actual brochure to send to somebody. They'll email them an electronic one that somebody has put together. And I don't know if you guys have checked, but email doesn't cost anything. Putting together a little basic brochure that is virtual doesn't cost anything. I can tell you this, from putting together actual brochures to share actual information with people, that is an expensive endeavor. And that's something these guys don't do. So what I just did all this tons of research. And it's like, one of the things that if you really want to find out more information, I put together a digital download of a bunch of different reports that I have compiled in the last 6 years about the majority of the I'm going to say the biggest pains in the butt when it comes to the competition, the people that are, not these little, mom and pop operations that are selling 5 units a month, but the ones that are attacking us. Let me tell you what, you want to get on my radar as a competition? Because I know there's competition on there right now. Hey guys, this is the stuff they do. They want to know what I've got to say so that they know how to combat it. So I'm going to tell you right now, you want to know how to get on my radar? It's very easy. Attack my company. Attack Enagic. Say something about us. Say something that's not true. You'll pop up on my radar something fierce. And then I'm going to find out about you. I'm going to make sure that I tell everybody that I can the truth so that you cannot hurt consumers. That's what it's more about, you guys, just so you understand. I'm not doing this because I'm like vindictive. I'm doing this because you know what? I don't like bullies. And that's what these guys are doing. They're basically bullies because they're bullying people that don't know any better. When I was a kid, I was a little guy and I got bullied. When I got bigger, bullies didn't happen anymore. I took care of bullies after that. And I'm doing it right now for the people in Enagic because I don't like bullies. And as far as I'm concerned, what these competitions do is they bully our people. They bully our prospects into buying something that's an inferior product that's not going to help them. What those guys are after is a quick buck, not to help a person's health improve for the rest of their life. And when that's, to me, that's being a bully. And I won't stand for that. So that's one of the reasons I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but I get very emotional about this. I get very, It's one of those things, man. I do not like it because I have a lot of people that I care about that I want to make sure that they have the best opportunity for honest information to be able to make an educated decision. And when you got guys that are trying to manipulate explanations and downright lying to people to try to make a buck, nothing worse to me, John. Nothing worse to me than something like that. So that's one of the reasons that I'm as adamant as I am about this. But, I've done a ton of research and it's been an expensive endeavor. In order to find out about the competition, sometimes you have to buy their machines and dismantle them. So when you're spending thousands and thousands of dollars getting these other machines, looking at them, seeing what's true, what's not, it can become an expensive endeavor. But I think it's worthwhile, for everybody. That's why I share this information with everybody. John, what's up, buddy?
First of all, I want to thank Jerry for being on this call because I didn't even introduce him correctly, and this guy knows more about the competition than I've ever met, and he's probably one of my top 5 favorite guys in the entire company because of his giving his time. No, seriously, this guy gives more of his time. Is the nicest guy in the world. He is just so knowledgeable. He's so giving with everything, and I just want to acknowledge Jerry for this because. I think it's the best to do it in public in an arena like this because, man, you're an amazing guy. I appreciate everything you've done. And I've known you since day one, pretty much. And we've, did our little demos together at small little places and we're kind of watching each other. And here it is, we're 6A 5-2s and, I don't know what you are, but I think the 5-2.
I'm a 4-2.
4-2, okay. So, this is great. And, I want to see Jerry make it to the top just like I am, and I'm here to help him in any way that I can. I know he does the same thing for me. But Jerry, how many of these machines have you actually opened up and looked at, and how many used ones have you looked at? Because we'll go ahead from there.
I've probably seen the inside of probably 10 different brands of machines, and of the 10, probably 6 of them were identical guts. Because they all came from Incotech.
Okay.
So basically, it's like, you can really, it's kind of funny. You can tell typically by the ionization chamber housing who makes it. Because the Incotech model has a very distinctive look. I mean, when once you see it, you know it. So if you've ever seen the inside of like a Melody or any of the other Jupiter, put together, because you got to remember, Jupiter is Incotech. If you've seen the inside of one of those, pretty much that's the way to identify that's, that is in fact an Incotech product. And they're all the same. The only thing that's going to change inside is the actual physical number of plates. So I've probably seen the inside, like I said, of 10 of them. And as far as used ones, I've seen a few used ones. Got to remember, man, I don't deal with too many people that are foolish enough to get one of the competition machines. So I don't have a whole lot of people that have the used ones. I have seen a couple, that, testing, finding out someone had like a Jupiter machine that they'd had for like a year. This is a true story through Michael Kinnett. They had this machine for about a year, and they tested the water. See, they had never tested the water. They didn't know, they didn't have drops, they didn't know what it was. Water was produced, the machine produced what it was supposed to be. It's alkaline drinking water, and then obviously the offset runoff. So both of those were collected. So the top hose and bottom hose basically, and then they turned it on to just a filtered water setting with a tap, or just the tap water, not even filtered water, just the tap. And when all three of those cups were put together and drops were put in, they were all three exactly the same color. So what that meant is the setting on the alkaline water was doing nothing. It literally was doing nothing. It was just tap water that the people had been drinking. Now, for how long, I don't know. But it's a great example of the type of stuff that happens. So that's, the other machines. And that's another thing too, you guys. We don't want you to have to go through all the junk that we've had to. That's the reason we've created these type of trainings, that we're telling you this stuff, because I want you to know this, but learn it through our experience. I don't want you to have to go through the 6.5 years of gaining knowledge is a long time, man. Doctors do that kind of stuff, So, and I'm not a doctor, but I'll tell you what, I know a lot about ionizers. So that's kind of where that is. But John, let me kind of run through this thing a little bit more, because I actually have a couple pictures of the plates. That to the left-hand side of the big picture, that actually is the melody. So if you can kind of see that white thing on the inside where the wires are going to, that's their ionization chamber. Okay. Now, if the three plates onto the side, that was the old Sunnis housing, DX2, and then SD501 housing. As you can see, at the time that this was taken, our smallest machine was almost machine's plates are almost twice as big as the competition's best machine. The Melody is the top of the line machine for Jupiter, and that's it on the left-hand side. Yeah.
Wow.
So on the left of this, the left picture, that's our plate on the left, and that literally is their plate, their high-tech mesh plate on the right. And there's a difference there. I think everybody can see it. It kind of screams to me different, but it's important that you, as a distributor, know this, okay? And that's what the housing looks like. That's how it actually fits in. Their little plate fits into that housing. And again, just look at the construction difference, you guys. Have you ever been in a really cheap car, and when you shut the door, it sounds like a tin can being shut? Or when you get into a real high-quality car, when you shut the door, it sounds like you just got into an airplane or something, and it's like, you know the difference. You can hear and see quality if you know what to look for, okay? So this is one of those examples. This is another thing I want to talk to you guys, because your people they're going to run into this. Review websites. Very easy. This one's very easy to kill right off the bat. If somebody comes to you and says, I saw this review website that says, fill in the blank, okay? There are no review websites on the internet that are true. There's no unbiased reviews. Every single one of them are owned by someone who has a vested interest in a specific model or models of ionizer being sold. Period. When Consumer Reports officially tests ionizers, that's when there will be an unbiased report. Until that time, anything you'll find on the internet, it's a marketing website, not a review website. And what a marketing website means is they're trying to sell you a specific type of machine. Okay? All right. Here's another one too. I want to explain this. This is important, okay? Certifications. Enagic has a ton of different certifications, and it's important that you know what they are, okay? One of them is the ISO certifications. ISO stands for International Organization of Standardization. This is basically an oversight body that oversees the manufacturing industry. Now, this is a voluntary thing that costs a ton of money to be participating in. But basically what the ISO does is they come up with a set of standards for manufacturing practices. And if a company decides to adhere to those standards, they can become certified through the ISO program. Just so you know, the top of the top in manufacturing utilize ISO certifications. Okay, I'm talking like you're talking the big guys, okay, are ISO certified. The ISO certifications that Enagic actually has, the three main ones that are the most important when you're talking to your people are ISO 9001, ISO 14001, and ISO 13485. Now, the 9001 is the compliance standards for quality. That means that there's a set of standards that the ISO has put together that if you follow them, you can be certified that your company is producing a product that the ISO says the quality of this is good enough to put our stamp of approval on it. Okay? So that's the first one. The second one is the 14001. That is for environmental impact compliance. What that means is that during the manufacturing process, Enagic does not exceed, they either meet or less than the requirements for the environmental impact during the manufacturing process of their product. Okay? There's a lot of people that care about the environment. So that ISO 14001 is a very important ISO certification for the company to have. Now, the ISO 13485, in my opinion, most important. That is for ISO certification of manufacturing of a medical grade product. Okay? Just so you know, Enagic is the only company that has the ISO 13485. Period. They're the only ones. Go ahead, John.
First of all, number one, what does ISO stand for again? And number two is the 13485. I have not heard of that before. And is that something new?
No, actually it's not. Enagic has had this for quite some time. The ISO again stands for International Organization of Standardization. Yeah, why it isn't iOS, I have no idea. It's their initials that they go. I don't know, man. It's in like Switzerland or something as the main body. So it's who knows. Those Europeans, what can you do? But the 13485, now it's actually been around for quite a while, and that means that Enagic. And let me tell you, the 13485 manual of standards, it's stupid, man. It's like 200 pages thick of what the requirements are to be able to get that 13485 certification. Because what people have to remember is, for you to get certified with these, it basically the standards are from beginning to end and everything in between. So what it means is when it comes to the manufacturing, if it's going to be a medical product, you have to start with the proper materials right off the bat. You have to start with the proper production facilities, clean room environments. All these different things are required. So before you even get to the end product that is a medical grade product, you have to do all these things ahead of time to get to that medical grade product. That's why that 13485 is such a big deal, and nobody else has it. Okay? All right. Somebody says, are those the three that Enagic has on our plant in Japan? The answer is yes, it is. Okay? Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, there's more ISO certifications that they have, but these are the most important that when you're talking to people are going to have the most punch. There's other ones that, they're for different things, but these are the ones that are the most important. Also, Enagic is DSA certified. That's the Direct Selling Association. The reason that that's important is if you're going to be in the direct sales industry, it's important to belong to these type of organizations that provide oversight. That means it's providing a higher level of guarantee and assurance to the consumer that the company that they're dealing with is adhering to a higher standard of doing business. Okay? So that's the DSA, Direct Selling Association. And the last one I'm going to mention here are the WQA Gold Seal certifications. WQA is the Water Quality Association. It's the oldest water association in the United States when it comes to governing and overseeing the water industry. Okay? A couple of years ago, Enagic got three pretty important WQA Gold Seal certifications. One of them is NSF and ANSI 372. The other one, NSF ANSI 42. And then the CSA B43-1 or .1. Okay, let me tell you what these are for. One of them is for lead content in the actual product. Okay, and that's just a requirement now across the board. The other two are for quality of water produced by the machine. Now that's important because Enagic is the only ionizer company in the market that has WQA Gold Seal certification for water produced by the machine. We're the only ones that have gone through the testing protocols and the testing requirements to be able to have that certification. All right? Now, I want you to see how this is manipulated, okay? Because what these guys do is they will manipulate this, okay? Certifications of the competition. Life Ionizers say they have NSF ANSI 372. Now remember,
Yeah.
that's just for lead content in the plastic housing of the machine. It has nothing to do with the water produced. They say they have ISO 9001 certification. Life Ionizers does not. That certification is for Tech, and that's actually the only one that they have, is the ISO 9001. So it's good that they have the quality, but they're missing the environmental and the medical. They're missing those two. Chanson USA, they say that they're a member of the WQA, and they are not. Chanson Water Company Limited in Taiwan is a member of the WQA. But Chanson USA, they're not a member, but they're trying to piggyback off of the membership that the company who makes the machines in Taiwan has. Yeah.
Can they technically do that, though? I mean, if the machine is
You know what, honestly, John, probably not. But most of these guys don't care about technicalities. They're going to do what they can till they get caught and get told not to. That's just a reality, okay? Jupiter, ionways, same thing, ISO 9001. But see, Jupiter, ionways, which one is it now? Valera, Life Ionizers, they're all saying that they have 9001 because it's made by Tech. So they're all saying that they have 9001 when the reality is none of them do. The company who makes the machine does, but they don't, and it's basically misrepresenting the information. They're manipulating the information to try to make the people that are looking at their products think they're getting something from them as a company, and they're not. All these guys are middlemen. They're middlemen for someone else's product. The fact that they even call themselves an ionizer company, it's a joke. You know, Jupiter's not an ionizer company. Ionways isn't an ionizer company. Life Ionizers isn't an ionizer company. The ionizers are made by somebody else. All they are is a seller. They're a seller of a private label brand. That's it. That's all they are. And that's something. Now let me show you. See, this is the stuff that, if you look at this, Life Ionizers. I want to say that word, that phrase one more time. Life Ionizers on their website says that they're NSF, and they list the NSF. They say how important it is, and this is the information that they have. EPA strongly recommends that any filters used to filter city municipal water have NSF certified. You know, wow, this is really important. Okay, now again, Life Ionizers. Then they go on to say we have NSF certified products. These are the NSF certified products that they have. I want you to understand, none of these are ionizers. One of them is a shower head, one of them is a filter, one of them some other filter, and one of them is this pump thing that pushes out water from a jug. But none of them are actually ionizers. But since Life Ionizers is saying that they have NSF, there is an implied thing to a consumer that the ionizers have the NSF, and they don't. See, that's how these guys are duping consumers. And again, for the certification that they do have, it's an NSF ANSI 372 that has nothing to do with water production. It has to do with lead content. But you know what, guys? Our prospects don't know that unless you tell them. What they're going to see is NSF and ANSI certification. Oh, wow, that's great. That's what these guys are supposed to have. They're just like an adjunct. But they're not just like an adjunct because their water has never been tested and gone through the rigorous standards of being NSF and ANSI approved. Okay, that's where the differences are. And these are the things that you need to make yourself aware of and become, you know, and basically acclimate yourself to so that you'll know what to tell people. Okay, and again, wouldn't it be nice if Life Ionizers are going to promote NSF, that one of their ionizers actually is NSF rated and NSF certified? I think it would be nice. Okay, comparisons. Here's my favorite, okay? You guys know, okay, this is just consumerism, United States consumerism. We know as consumers in this country that when one product compares itself to another, an inferior product is trying to elevate itself to a superior one, okay? Now, you guys remember this commercial, right? Mercedes handles just like a Hyundai. Oh, wait a second. No, you don't remember that commercial. Why? Because it doesn't exist. Well, why not? Because Mercedes is the superior product. And when you're the superior product, you don't compare yourself to anybody. You want to know why? There's nobody to compare to. You're the best. But what happens is everybody compares to you. Because have you heard this commercial? Hyundai corners like a Mercedes. Oh, Toyota with the soundproof compartment like a Mercedes. these guys are comparing themselves in order to try to elevate an inferior product to the level of a superior product. We know that as consumers. It doesn't change the fact that it's the same here with this product. It's just a different product. And you have to remind consumers of what they already know. Because they do already know this, guys. They already know. You just have to remind them that nothing's changed. If one of these other guys says, we're just like them, only cheaper. No. What they're saying is, we want to be just like them. We're just cheaper. Okay? Because that's what's really going on. Because they're not just like us. If some of these guys say, we're superior to Enagic, if that was the case, then Enagic would be comparing themselves to them, which we do not do. Why? Because we're the gold standard in this industry. That's why everybody compares themselves to us. Everybody does. They're trying to elevate themselves. So here's the reality, you guys. Are these really the same thing? Is a Kia and a Mercedes really the same thing? You look at those two pictures, and you know what? If you owned either one of those cars and you weren't paying attention to where you parked in the parking lot, I bet you could walk up to the wrong one. Because those look awfully close, man. They look awfully close. But you know what? What you see is not where the difference is. Though where the difference is in the things you cannot see, you guys. The development and design, the research engineering, manufacturing, materials, the components, the craftsmanship, the product life expectancy, warranty and service, quality and dependability. Those are the things that create a price difference. And those are the things. That's why there's a $30,000, $40,000 difference between a Kia and a Mercedes, because of all those component pieces. Now, I'm not saying there isn't a market for a Kia. There is. But let me ask you this. Honestly, if the difference in price between a Kia and a Mercedes was only $2,000, do you think Kia would be in business? And I'm going to say, I don't think so. Because if the difference was only $2,000, everybody would say, I'll just spend the extra money and get the Mercedes because it's only $2,000. That's what people have to think about with our product, is that the difference between the Life Ionizer and the Enagic SD501, the difference between a Tyant and SD501, all these differences, they're about $1,500 to $2,000. But it's the difference between a Kia and a Mercedes. Don't go cheap. Especially when it comes, look, people will spend extra money to be more comfortable when they're sitting on their butt driving down the freeway, but they'll try to save money when it comes to their life and their health. Let's get reasonable, you guys. We need to be smart about things. And basically, this is not being smart. It's not being smart when you're going to cut corners on your own health. It doesn't make any sense. Okay? Consider this question, too. This is an important piece. If you went and test drove a Mercedes, would you then go down to the Kia dealership and buy their car based on your Mercedes test drive? Would that make any sense to do? But for whatever reason, people are doing it here all the time. They're trying our water, test driving the Mercedes, and then you have these other manufacturers that say, oh, that test drive that you had, it's just like ours. Buy our car. But as a consumer, you would never do that, right? Why? Because you know better. Because here's the deal, guys. If they're not going to offer you a test drive, there's a reason. Okay? There is a reason. So buyer beware. Ultimately, what I tell people all the time is I say, you know what? They can say anything they want. At the end of the day, you know what I want you to ask them for? A sample of their water before you buy. And then I tell them, and if they say no, I don't care what the reason is for behind it. If they say the word no, two letters put together with an N and an O, if they say that, it's because they can't. It's not because they don't want to. They can't. Properties aren't strong enough. Okay? And here's another question, you guys. Just because things have similar function does not make them the same. Because are these the same? Because if you tell me yes, I'd agree. I say they are the same. They both serve a similar function. But is there a difference? And I would say to that, absolutely. Because I'll tell you what, for all the people that think that the razor on the left is the only one people buy, you're out of your mind if you think that. Why? Because there are certain people that demand a higher quality. They demand a better performance, and they want more out of their product than a disposable price. You want a disposable ionizer? There's plenty of them out there. If you want one that's going to last you 15, 20, 25 or plus years, that's when you come see us. Okay, you guys? So we're the razor on the right, and they're the razor on the left. And if you want to, everybody's used disposable razors, men and women on here, whether it's for your face, your legs, whatever. And you guys know that those disposable ones, you use them a couple of times, and all of a sudden it's time to dispose of it because it doesn't work like it was supposed to anymore, right? The blade gets, you can try to clean it. You can't replace the blades. It's the way it's made. This is what you have to understand, you guys. The other machines that are out there, literally, they're disposable. After about a year to year and a half, the majority of them don't work anymore. And there's not a way to bring them back to life. So for people that are considering these other machines, what you have to get them to understand is when it comes to an ionizer, they cannot have a disposable mentality. They have to have a long-term, serious mentality. And when you have that, that's when you are able to get the results that you're really looking for. You want a disposable mentality? Don't be surprised when your face is all cut up with little pieces of toilet paper, okay? Because that's what's going to happen with that disposable mentality. You're going to get chopped up as a result. And that's what happens with these machines. Your health gets chopped up because it's not doing what you think it's doing. So go on the side where you know the quality is there, that you know the results are there, and do that. John, what's up?
Yeah, well, I probably said this. I know my organization has heard this before, but about 9 months, probably about 6 months ago, actually, I was speaking in New York, and I was flying over to DC to do some more demos and stuff. And when I was on the plane from New York to Washington, D.C., sitting next to me was the attorney for Whole Foods. So I'm like, oh, this would be a great little conversation. We could talk the whole way over about, different things. And after I got done talking about GMOs and his view on things with the Whole Foods and things like that, he asked me what I did, and I told him that I actually work for Kangen Water selling the water ionizers. And he said, oh, I have one of those. I said, oh, okay. He goes, mine's a Jupiter. I said, oh, okay. He said, actually, this is my second Jupiter. He said the first one lasted 2 years, and the water wasn't coming out like it should, and just wasn't working like it used to, so I got a second one. Then he said, and you know what? This one's doing the same thing. I got to get my third one after 2 years again. And I said, look, we need to talk. And I explained to him about the Kangen Water ionizer. So, that's exactly what happens, and there's no exaggeration here. It's the way it is. And once you understand this and see what happens, I know Dr. Peggy Parker ran into those problems with getting metal toxicity poisoning, right? And she couldn't figure out what was going on. And for months, she was getting very, very, very sick. And all of her doctor friends were saying, well, it might be this, it might be that, and you might want to change this, you might want to do this, it might be mold. Until finally one of her doctor friends says, well, maybe it's a water ionizer. And she thought, well, She took it apart and found that the plates were all corroding on the inside and that she was getting really bad metal toxicity poisoning. So she did all of her research and found that the Enagic was the one that with the plates that wouldn't come apart and that the metal wouldn't come off of it because the electromagnetic plating that seals that platinum into the titanium so it doesn't come off. And she got one, and now she spends her life researching these water ionizers to show that the Enagic was the best one on the market, and also show how this actually helps with different diseases and health conditions.
Yep, that's a great example of exactly what we're talking about, you guys. So again, let me continue on here, and I want to make sure we don't. Okay, this one is important too. When you have people that are insisting on buying price instead of quality or benefit, what I want you to do is punch them one. Okay, hit them right in the face as hard as you can, and this is what you're going to punch them with. This right here, the G2 Batch Water Ionizer by Hidden Cures. Somebody says that price is the most important part over quality and what it's actually going to produce. You show them this because it's only $164.95. Okay? Now I want you to look at this again. It looks like two plastic cookie jars from Costco with a tube in it connected directly to a hot lead that goes into the wall. Now, I don't know about you. Those are just like exposed wires. I know people, unfortunately, I have friends that aren't the smartest, they're not the smartest person in the room. They would kill themselves just trying to put this thing together, okay? Because they'd hold both of those, put them in the water, that's it, I got no more friends, okay? So that's if you have somebody who's talking about price, get a copy of this. All you got to do is go online, G2 Batch Water Ionizer by Hidden Cures, get this image and text it to them or email it to them and say, oh, you know what? I thought you cared about your health. If price is your main concern, here you go. This is the lowest priced one on the market. Don't even waste your $1,500 on a Tyant or a Life. Don't waste your money on that. You just want price. Here you go. This is the best price you're going to find. And what happens is when people see this, it's a wake-up call. Because you guys think about this. These ionizers are for our health. So when it comes to health, what do you look for? Do you look for a discount doctor? Or do you look for the best money can buy for you? Yeah, you might not care if I have a discount doctor. But when it comes to your health, do you care? What's the reality? If you have to go to a doctor, you want the best that money can buy. I mean, honestly, you guys, last time you went to the doctor, did you start the conversation by saying, hey, doc, listen, before we get started, I have a question for you. I'm hoping that you finished last in your class because I'm looking for a deal. No, you wouldn't do that. You'd be like, hey, what are your qualifications that I should trust you with my health? That's what people ask. They don't ask if they could get a deal. No, because they want the best that they can get, right? Here's the reality, you guys. There are other cheaper machines on the marketplace. But when it comes to health, what does cheap have to do with it? Cheap has nothing to do with health. If you want to use a cheaper fly swatter, or you want to use a cheaper, something, a pool skimmer, go ahead, okay? But when you're going to look at something that's potentially for your health, do not look cheap. And this is what you have to tell your prospects. How much is your health worth? Because if your health is worth nothing, then fine. Don't worry about it. Buy the batch ionizer by Hidden Cures. Buy that one. But if your health is worth something to you, if you're being around a little bit longer so that your family can depend on you, so you can see your grandchildren graduate college, so you can experience some of these things that more and more people are not being able to experience because they're dying when they're 50 years old. You guys watch the news? Are you watching how people are just dropping dead left and right? It's premature death. You know what? You know why we know this? Because these people shouldn't be dying this early. They should be living to ripe old ages. And they're not, though. They're dying in their 40s and their 50s and their 60s. And you know what, guys? The human body was meant to be able to last into its hundreds. But we're dying because of what we're doing to ourselves. We're hitting ourselves in the head with a hammer and wondering why we have a headache. People need to wake up, you guys. They need to wake up, okay? Don't let your prospects become victims of the competition. That's the most important thing, okay? You need to educate them and empower them. And one of the ways you can do it with some of the different tools that are out there, okay? This one, I highly recommend if you have people that are younger, okay? It's a DVD. It's very strong. It's got a lot of information. As a matter of fact, it's like an hour and a half long in total. 6 different sections about the ionizer industry. This is the way that you can learn and that you can teach, okay? For the people who don't like to read, and there's more and more of them every day because we're living in more of a multimedia, environment, this is a great way to get them information so they'll understand the industry. Now, here's the thing. You want to get something like this to your prospects before they have the opportunity to go online and do their research, because this is actually going to answer a lot of the questions that would have popped up when they go online and see what they're going to see. Okay, so this is one of the things I recommend. This one more for old school. This is for like 40 and above. This is for people who like to read. This is in a magazine style format with all sorts of different articles in it that talk about the ionizer industry. And again, it's going to focus people on the realities and the truth behind this stuff. Okay, so that's an important one. This one again, this is for you. You want to learn about the competition for real? Get the digital download. It has all my special reports, the full training, the audio with all the PowerPoints. There's so much stuff in there. It's ridiculous how much stuff is in there. There's special reports specifically on Tyant, Alcaviva, Chanson, Life Ionizers, Aqualiv, Valera, and Jupiter. Specific reports that talk about just those companies so that you can prepare yourself and know what these guys do and say, okay? At the end of this thing, you're going to be redirected. So stay on. That's one of the things I want to let you guys know. Stay on this. When it's over, you're going to get redirected to a page that I created specifically just for the people that are on this event. Okay? This is going to be my way of saying thank you for coming and checking this out and taking the time to be here and educating yourself to this. Okay? It's going to point you to a page that is unpublished that nobody else has, that is going to actually have all the stuff that I just showed you discounted, including when I first introduced the digital download, it had half as much content and it was running $50 for a download. It now has twice as much content and you guys are going to get access to it for $15. Okay? It's been dropped down. Why? I'm trying to make sure that as many distributors as want this thing can get it. All right? Now here's the thing though. You guys are going to get access to this. This is brand new. These literally are not going to be officially released until GU. This is a new hardcore health marketing magazine that literally, I haven't even gotten it from the printer yet. And then my Paddling Out and Fast Start to Success double feature guidebook. These are brand new products that no one has these in their hands yet, and no one has access to be able to purchase these yet. You guys are going to have access to do a pre-purchase so that literally you'll be the first to get them when they come here. Yeah, John.
What is the Paddling Out about?
Paddling Out, let me tell you what I did with Paddling Out. You guys might know I wrote the book Ride the Wave. One thing that I noticed, Ride the Wave's in its 4th edition. It's got tons of fantastic information. But the one thing I realized is that what it didn't have is a real specific look at the first 30 days of business. Because I think that's probably one of the most important times for a brand new distributor. So what I did is I started putting together a little thing for the first 30 days. Well, it got to the point where it ended up being almost 60 pages formatted in the same size as the Ride the Wave. And so I was like, it's too much to put into Ride the Wave. That would make Ride the Wave nearly 300 pages, and I think it would become overwhelming for a brand new person if you hand them this encyclopedia, Kangatica type of thing. Okay, so what I decided to do instead is I did it large format. It's an 8.5 by 11, and the first 40 pages is Paddling Out. The second 40 pages is the Fast Start to Success guide. So it's a total of 80 pages that is meant for the first 30 days in this business. And what it really does is it talks about specific action items, specifics that will help a brand new person really be able to hit this thing running in their first 30 days. Because, John, I think that the first 30 days create the foundation for a person's career here at Enagic. And I think that if you struggle in your first 30 days, you're going to struggle in your business. But I think if you are able to have success in those first 30 days, it creates the foundation on which to build your business. And so that's what we're trying to do. I know for me, John, I don't know how your business started, but in my first 30 days, there were 23 sales within our group. And that set the foundation for us to rock it. So in the first 30 days, I was prepared to actually be a 4A in the first 30 days. And so I think that that helps create the foundation on which I was able to build a pretty successful organization. And I think that if more and more people recognize the importance of the first 30 days, that we will start having a much stronger, development across the entire Enagic distributor base.
I agree 100% with that. And when I got started, all I was told was give out water and give them a DVD. And it's like, okay. And I wasn't too successful, but I'm tenacious. And that didn't stop me because I knew what the water was doing. I knew where the company was headed. I knew what the track record was. So I knew it was just a matter of time. But can you just share a couple of quick things with us on the Paddling Out, or 4 things that you have your new distributors do in the first 30 days?
Absolutely. One of the first things that I do in Paddling Out is I kind of set a tone of reality. The one thing I let people know right off the bat is, don't have dollar signs in your eyes. Have a mission in your heart. That's what you need to do. Because if you look at this thing correctly, which is I'm going to change lives, not I'm going to make money. Because if your mindset to begin with is I'm going to make money, you have to realize there's a growing process in this. And the money might not come until a little bit later. So if you think I'm going to make money, and then in the first 30 days or 60 days you don't, your spirits are going to go down to the point where you might not ever recover. But if your mindset is I'm going to change lives, then and that's what you focus on, then the money comes as a result, because you'll start changing lives immediately and see that happen. See, if you're only in it for the money and you don't see that happen immediately, the back of your brain says this isn't working. But if you're in this with the mindset of I'm changing lives, and you start sharing water, and in the first week you have somebody come back to you and go, wow, I've seen this tremendous difference. You're like, wow, this really works. and it gets you that much more excited. Now, one of the things, John, that I did that's extremely different in paddling out, and I think people, look, I think you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it, but I'm hoping more people love it, okay, is I created a fictitious 30-day diary. I created a diary, like diary entries, of the efforts that a person would put out, that if you do these certain things, they should have these certain results, okay? I created it based on some of my own personal experience, as well as experiences I've seen from other distributors. Because I think one of the problems is, a lot of times we tell people, this is what you should do, and this is what you should do, and this is what you should do. Instead, with paddling out, I created the approach with the diary entries of, this is what I did. This is what I did. And it's on a daily basis for 30 days. And some days there's a lot of activity. Other days there's hardly any. Because I want people to understand that if you really are working this program, you don't have to do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You know, but you do have to be consistent. You do have to say, on these certain days, I'm an Enagic distributor, you know, and that you're following through with that. And so I wanted to create a model that a person could read this thing over and be inspired by it to be able to know the type of actions that would help lead to results. So it is fictitious, but it's also grounded in reality. And I think it's going to serve as a very good example for people of the type of actions that if they start incorporating, especially in their first 30 days, that they're going to start seeing some immediate results. And that's what I think people really want, you know. So John, just so you know, I've made 3 different marketing magazines. I've written a couple books. I honestly think that the new paddling out is going to have a larger and more significant impact on distributor success than anything else I've produced.
Right. Well, the first 30 days is most crucial. And I know I feel that the past 7 years, I feel that the Daily 8 is the best thing to come out in Enagic, and which really just propelled me and my distributors. You want to say something about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The Daily 8 is a great way to track your progress. Paddling out is going to be a great way to know what to do to progress. That's the difference. If you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, tracking that is going to be very difficult to do. But if you have a direction, if you actually have some specific that, like, it's spelled out for you how you do these things, because that's what I actually do with paddling out. It is more of a specific, you know, this is the way that you can do this, and people have succeeded. And it's going to, I'm telling you, the approach is different than anything anybody's seen before. So I think the combination, let me tell you, John, I think the combination of the paddling out with the fast start, with the Daily 8, and with Ride the Wave, those 3 things together, when they're all put together, it's going to create a phenomenal base for a brand new person to have the best chance of success possible. And then also the hardcore help. Let me tell you quick about this, because I don't know if people haven't seen this. I just released the cover of this thing yesterday. Okay, I wasn't supposed to release it till Monday, but I just released the cover yesterday, and it's being made available for you guys pretty much first. This is all pro athletes inside of this. This is not some, you know, guy who likes to run on the weekends. This is professional football players, professional baseball players, pro bodybuilders, all of them that are Kangen Water drinkers and Enagic machine owners. The entire thing. It's like 22 articles about different pro people who have implemented this water into their life. This is going to be huge when it comes to the credibility, you guys. This is going to be huge, because it's no longer, you know, me saying it's something that's good. It's a guy who gets paid by the NFL to say this is good. That's huge. Okay?
Yeah.
So these 2 things I think are going to be pretty good. Let me close this up, though, okay? Because I want everybody to think about this. I think this is really important. The way that we market our product primarily is by giving the water away. We give out free samples. That's what I have found to be the most effective, and that's what most people do, okay? So the question becomes, if that has led to great successes for Enagic and for Enagic distributors, why doesn't the competition just do the same thing? Why don't they just start sharing their water so they can grab their share of market share? Let me tell you the real reason that the competition has not copied our marketing methodology. It's simple. They can't do it. They cannot do it. Why? Because their water properties are not strong enough to sample. What does that mean? It means that their alkalinity and their negative ORP, it's gone within 4 to 12 hours. So how do you give somebody water for 3 days if the properties are gone within 4 to 12 hours? How can you do that? You can't. You literally you would need to be able to sample a person 2 times a day in order for them to have any chance at feeling any kind of benefit. Why? Because by day two, what they're drinking is water. It's not alkaline water anymore. It's just water. Now, yeah, drinking water is going to be helpful, but we all know that the alkaline water, with the other properties that it has, with the microclustering, the alkalinity, and the negative ORP, are the things that really make it different. What these guys have to offer cannot do that. That's the reason that they don't do it, okay? So here's what I'm going to recommend everybody does. Take action against the competition by, 1, getting educated. This is not the end of your education about the competition, folks. This is your beginning. You understand that? This is your beginning. Arm yourself with the best tools and resources, okay? That's very important. You need to know. So get educated and get armed. Inoculate your prospects with info and facts. The only way you can do that is to have that stuff at your disposal. Info and then the materials for the facts. Stop losing sales to lower quality products, because the only reason you would is lack of knowledge of tools. That's it, you guys. Okay? Understand that these other ionizer companies are only competition if you allow them to be. You know what? I never have problems with somebody addressing the competition with me. Ever. I've never lost a sale to another brand before. Ever. Me personally. Why? Because I made sure that I knew about this stuff in depth enough to where I couldn't lose the sale. Because I make sure I educated myself. I had enough materials to be able to support what I tell people, and that they get educated by me and prepared, so that if they do see this other stuff, they're prepared for it ahead of time and they know what's really behind it. So it's important that you do those things. John, that's pretty much what I've got for everybody. I am going to say this. When you get forwarded over to the link that's going to be when John ends this thing, it should direct you to this other page, okay? If you're going to GU, don't place an order. I'm just going to tell you that right now, okay? These products are going to be officially released at the GU event, and there is going to be special event release pricing. Unfortunately, if you're not going to GU, this is what you want to do. If you're not going to the event in Vegas next week, go ahead and place your order, because it's going to be cheaper for you now than it's ever going to be. I actually reduced the prices even on the brand new stuff lower than any time else. And I did this for John. This is my way of saying, John, I appreciate you allowing me to be here and talking to your people, and I hope that I've been able to provide them with some good information. And I greatly apologize for the delay in getting into this. But I said at the beginning of this, I was going to promise that you guys, it would be worth the wait, and I hope I delivered on that promise.
Well, and just to let you guys know, I have all Jerry's information, all of Jerry's pamphlets, information, books, and things like that. I think it's really, really good. Everybody that I know, also including myself, that has read Ride the Wave, try and say that 5 times fast, loves it. And especially for you guys that are maybe 1, 2, 3, and 4As. As you're 6A, you're kind of like, oh yeah, I kind of know that. But there's still a lot of things in the book that are very, very helpful. And I can't wait for both of those to come out, because I got a lot of professional athletes that I work with, and it's good to have a brochure, something that powerful that you can hand somebody and they can look at. So I want to thank you
for your GU, buddy. I'll have your copies for your GU.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, I can't wait for that. Thank you very much, Jerry. And I'm going to, in closing, when I end this, I'm going to send you to a website where you can actually take a look at all this stuff. And we want to just thank Jerry again for being here and for all of his facts and information.
John,
and,
John, if I could, real quick, there was a note that said something there. No, the question is that it will not ship before GU. It actually will ship. They'll start shipping on Monday after the GU event, but that's when the prices go to the regular price. So if you're going to order them, go ahead and do it like a pre-order now, and you're going to save the money, but you'll start getting them the following week. Thanks, John.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Jerry, and thank you everybody for being on here. And by the way, we'll be back next Saturday, or actually not next Saturday, but the Saturday after next. We're going to have Jerry back on because there's so much stuff to cover, and it's hard to cover everything. But we're going to have Laura Diaz on in 2 weeks, and she's going to talk about the Ukon. And then we're going to have Jerry back on, hopefully in 3 weeks. And then Dr. Michael, we're going to have the week after that. So I want to thank everybody for being on the line and on the call. Thank you again, Jerry. And we will talk to you guys later. Okay,
Yep,
bye-bye.